James Comey, once the FBI director and a central figure in some of the nation's most high-profile investigations, now finds himself at the center of a legal storm that has captured the country's attention. He now faces a federal indictment for allegedly lying to Congress and obstructing justice, serious charges that could have far-reaching consequences for both his legacy and the broader justice system. The charges stem from his 2020 testimony before Congress, which has been intensely scrutinized by federal prosecutors for inconsistencies and possible falsehoods. The indictment was handed down just before the statute of limitations expired, a move that has raised eyebrows and sparked debate about the timing and underlying motivations behind the prosecution. Lindsay Halligan, a Trump-appointed interim U.S. attorney, is leading the prosecution. Her involvement has fueled speculation and debate over whether political considerations are influencing the case, especially given the charged political climate. Critics and legal experts alike are questioning whether the case is being pursued strictly on legal grounds, or if it is being driven by political motivations. The public discourse is heated, with opinions sharply divided. Prosecuting a former FBI director is an extraordinary and complex undertaking. The Department of Justice faces the daunting task of proving its case beyond a reasonable doubt, while also maintaining public trust in the impartiality of the justice system. Comey's defense team is expected to mount a vigorous challenge, scrutinizing every piece of evidence and questioning the prosecution's motives and methods at every turn. As this high-stakes legal battle unfolds, it will not only test the strength of the case against a former law enforcement leader, but also the integrity and resilience of the American justice system itself. The DOJ faces a tough challenge proving Comey knowingly lied. They must show he intended to deceive Congress, not just that his testimony was inaccurate. Comey's defense will argue any errors were memory lapses, not lies. Proving intent is difficult, especially with testimony from years ago. The prosecution needs clear evidence beyond transcripts to prove intent. Without it, the case could hinge on Comey's credibility versus the government's interpretation. The DOJ's case against Comey hinges on a potentially flawed transcript, which has raised significant questions about the accuracy and reliability of the recorded exchange. The charge involves a 2020 exchange with Senator Cruz, referencing a 2017 question by Senator Grassley. This exchange has become a focal point in the case, as the exact wording and context are under intense scrutiny. Cruz's phrasing differed from Grassley's, creating ambiguity and potential misinterpretation. This discrepancy is critical, as it could mean the difference between a misleading statement and a truthful response. Comey's defense will argue he answered the specific question asked by Cruz, not Grassley's original question. They will emphasize that the context and phrasing of the questions were different. This confusion could undermine the prosecution's case, as it introduces reasonable doubt about Comey's intent and the clarity of the questions posed to him. The defense will focus on the imprecision of the congressional record, highlighting any inconsistencies or errors that could cast doubt on the prosecution's narrative. The jury must decide if Comey's response was a deliberate lie or an honest answer to a confusing and potentially misleading question. Their decision will hinge on their interpretation of the evidence presented. Such complexity often benefits the defense, challenging the prosecution's burden of proof. The intricate details and potential for reasonable doubt make it difficult for the prosecution to secure a conviction. Comey's defense may argue for dismissal based on selective prosecution. They claim the case is politically motivated, citing Trump's public calls for Comey's indictment. Proving selective prosecution requires showing others weren't charged for similar conduct. Accessing DOJ records to prove this is challenging. A successful motion could dismiss the case, suggesting political bias. Even if unsuccessful, it could expose DOJ decision-making, fueling perceptions of political influence. Comey's indictment unfolds at a time of intense political polarization, making the case even more complex and contentious. The legal proceedings are not happening in a vacuum. They're taking place against a backdrop of deep national division, where every move is scrutinized through a partisan lens. Public opinion is sharply divided. Trump supporters view the indictment as long overdue justice, while critics argue it's a clear example of political abuse and weaponization of the justice system. The case has become a lightning rod for debate, fueling passionate arguments on both sides. The appointment of a prosecutor with ties to Trump has only heightened skepticism, raising questions about impartiality and fairness. Many wonder if the process is truly about justice, or if it's being influenced by political agendas. Legal experts are openly questioning the strength of the case, pointing to possible political motives behind the charges. Some analysts suggest the evidence may not be as solid as it appears, and that the prosecution faces significant hurdles. The outcome of this case could have far-reaching consequences, not just for Comey, but for the Department of Justice and the current administration. The stakes are high, and the nation is watching closely. The DOJ faces a difficult and uncertain path to conviction, navigating a landscape filled with ambiguity, controversy, and public distrust. Every decision is under the microscope. Comey's defense team is preparing for a tough battle, raising issues like selective prosecution and challenging the evidence at every turn. Their strategy will be critical in shaping the trial's outcome. Many observers predict the case may ultimately collapse, weighed down by its legal weaknesses and the overwhelming political baggage it carries.